So let's recreate 5 best sounds of 2022. To prove that you don't need to have the most advanced sounds to make a hit track. This one is coming from Artmat and the track is called Horizon. So let's start with a new preset, turn this off, get down on local sliders, we have something like this. Like the sound itself, the notes are pretty simple as well. The first obvious thing is the filter opening up short amount of time every hit. We're gonna go to envelopes and make this envelope more pluckier. Maybe give it a bit attack, change the curve a bit smoother so it goes smoother to the up. Maybe decay something like this and then a bit release. And this one is the volume envelope, so the volume gets also a bit pluckier, a bit release as well. Take the second envelope, put it on the cutoff filter. Something like this. We can get the keyboard so the notes opens up a bit more when you play on the high notes. And we will give also a bit of resonance. The sound gets a bit more creamier. Now to make this a bit feather, we're gonna turn on the second oscillator but put this down 12. We're gonna get a bit of body from here. And we will slightly detune it so it goes super slowly out of phase. Now once we have the bulk of the sound, there is also noise on top of this. We're gonna go to Utility Engine and we have a voice over here. Turn this on. I'm gonna go to Texture and get this fake rain sound. Almost percussive sound. Move it to the filter too and then put it into parallel mode so that we can use another filter to this sound. What we need to do, activate the second filter and pick something like bandpass filter, and I just want really this hype area of the sound, maybe somewhere around here. It's almost like a vinyl crackle, gives a bit like of analog feel to it. The function that we made over here goes to noise oscillator here, and this will make this one very plucky. Maybe it's around this. And of course the final piece is the effects. We're gonna pick a delay, put it into ping pong mode, time synced and dotted, and we're gonna give it a bit fine so that it lags a little bit. High pass filter to cut the super lows, slight low pass filter cut the super highs, and all the way to the width. A bit more feedback. Now the main trick over here is both the sound and the delay effect is distorted in the original sound. Maybe something like this. We're gonna go for the distortion. And make it a bit more like beat crashy, and then we're gonna pick the stairs, something like this, but this time weight is more down. To make the sound a bit pop, we're gonna go to effects, add an EQ, cut the super highs a little bit, boost the mids a bit, cut the lows a little bit as well. So we have more emphasis on the mid highs. And of course the final piece is a reverb so that we have the room ambience. And we are gonna send quite a bit there. Here we go. The sound is almost there. Let me fine tune from the track so that we have exactly the same sound. A little bit tiny tuning here and there, and we have this. Also, everything is assigned to the macros now, so cut off down a little bit like this. And then we open up. Here we go, we have the sound number 1. This video is made possible by you and my preset packs. Actually, I decided to make this preset pack after a poll that I made on the community tab or here on YouTube. Take a look at the Beatport Top 100 list on BeatStats and pick 60 of the best sounds that are available and recreated all of them. And on top of that, I added also 20 extra gnarly FM lead sounds because they are getting very popular, so that you have 20 extra more FM sounds. I of course change the melodies a little bit so that we don't infringe any copyright, but this should be really a go-to preset pack if you are making melodic house and techno or any melodic genre in that sense really. I will put the links below in the description. Now the second sound, of course, coming from Inalea. It sounds like this. It is similar to the previous sound, but we can hear that it is spiced up a little bit more. So let's spice it up. Now the main difference here will be our starting waveform. Before we use the sawtooth, but this time we're gonna use a bit more signified saw sound. Put the envelopes in this plug mode and put it on the cutoff. Let me quickly do that so that we don't lose time for the same thing. With the envelope on the cutoff, now we have this sound. It is not really close enough to the original sound. The main trick with the original sound is using envelopes to create percussion sound. So let's do that. We use the envelope 3 in this case, this one, and make it super fast, only 11 milliseconds, so it's very snappy. Take that envelope, put it into the chorus over here. This will create the pitch modulation on the sound very fast. And listen to the sound now. It's almost like a percussive hit, right? You can hear exactly what it's doing if you make it slower. And note that we are using Matrix 12 filter with 24 dB low pass, so it's much more thicker in that sense. We go to the effects here. First effect is similar to the previous one, a distortion to make the sound a bit more distorted and a bit flatter. And then a bit EQ, boost on the highs and lows a bit. But the main trick over here really is, if you take a look at the envelope 2, so the EQ is applied with an envelope, so it's very bright in the beginning, then brings it down. And finally, we are using OT2 to just really squash the dynamics and make it very, very plucky. Watch out that we are not using 100%, but only 40. After that, we have this whole feel. And on top of that, of course, a delay. The trick over here is using the delay at the send. Over here, return is also modulated by envelope 2. So when the original plug sound hits, we are ducking the delay sound and opening up when the sound disappears. This way, original sound is much cleaner. And if we play all together now, gorgeous, but the aggressive sound as Inhaler often does. This time we are gonna make this massive lead sound. Sounds like this. We have just 3 notes playing here and there. This one have several layers, so it will be a bit more complicated. Before we start with this one, if you haven't seen my how to create any sound video, I will edit it here before continuing with this video, because that will really make you understand what we are doing over here. Engine 1, we're gonna go to the analog because we want this analog oscillator as the core and the bass sound. Of course, it's not thick enough. What we need to do, go to Unison, we're gonna go for the super, so there's a super saw basically, and then we're gonna mix all the way up, stereo all the way up, and detune quite a bit. Now we have more massive sound, but the envelopes are not right. This is just like boop boop, right? We need to kind of have a bit movement on the sound. We're gonna go for this one, probably around here. We want the sound drop down a bit smoother. That means that envelope curve can be changed to make the smoother curve like this. And then we're gonna have a really long list so the sound lingers afterwards. Give the sustain all the way up, something like this, right? And then we're gonna do the similar thing on the second envelope. And for now, we can also take the third one, make it a bit snappier. Now we are getting closer, right? However, we don't have any movement on the filter. We're gonna go to filter. This time we're gonna use the mini filter to get this real analog vibe out of it and bring down the cutoff, and then take the envelope 2 and put it over here. Probably something around this should be sufficient. Immediately that captivating mini sound. I'm gonna for the utility engine, pick this one. And then we will make this sawtooth, something like this. If we play again. The purpose of this one, now this oscillator is just on the middle. It doesn't have any super soft characteristic that we had over here to make the sound a bit more glued in the middle in this case. Now if you listen to the original sound, you can hear that there's a sample on top of it. So it makes the sound a bit more organic in that sense. I will just use the samples that is available on the Pigments, synth basses, and there's this dark PW sound, which is old school, really bass sound. However, you can also hear from the sample the filters on sample and the synth itself are different. So we need to use the parallel filters to use a different filter just on the sample. You're gonna go here, put into parallel mode and route this one to the filter 2. Here, we're gonna go the same idea, the mini. This time we take the envelope 3 because this one is shorter and snappier. Bring it down, put the envelope 3 right here. If I turn this off, you can hear the sample sound a bit more. Of course, it's too deep, right? We need to put this up. I'm gonna go 24 dB. Now we are getting there. It it is sustained too much, we're going to bring the volume down and use again the third envelope here also on the volume so that it gets a bit snappier. Together. And the final piece, of course, adding a bit of effects. I'm going to add compression, decrease the attack a little bit, decrease the threshold. So we stabilize the sound a bit further. Let me here and do these tiny adjustments and come back. There was not really much to adjust really, but we have this one now. If you're enjoying the video up to now, please consider subscribing. It is free, but it helps me ton to make contents like this in the future. And of course, we cannot make a top sounds video without Massano. I have both the feeling and the system actually recreated in the preset pack, but for the tutorial, I want to replicate the one from the Human Aura because it's a sound that is really useful for electronic music producers. It sounds like this. So we have the notes. It's a big and rich sounding sound, so we are going to go for the analog once again. However, this time we're going to start with pitching it 1 octave up. And we're going to tune down the oscillator to 12 semitones and put the volume up. We can bring down this one as well a bit. Again, we need unison to make the sound really spread in stereo field. This time we're going to go for the classic because we don't want super wide. We're going to go something like this. Maybe 5 voices should be enough. Bring the stereo down so that the sound concentrates a bit on the middle. As usual, once you get the source of the sound right, you should focus on the envelopes. Something like this. Give a bit more release. Of course, once you have the envelopes, you should fix your cutoff filter so that we have this filter movement as well. We're going to bring this down somewhere in here and take that second envelope that we made, put on top. Now things start to sound a bit more similar, isn't it? However, there is something that is really missing, and it is the pitch envelope in the beginning of the sound. So we're going to take this envelope 3 that we made, that snappier envelope over here, and put it on the pitch one more time. But this time we're gonna modulate bottom up compared to the inner layer one up to down. We had this wink wink sound because of that, almost like a legato in this case. On the original sound, there's one more thing, and that's the noise. We're gonna go for a bit darker noise in this case. Put something like this. Barely audible. And then we are going to go to utility because we need 2 things. First, we need this kind of percussion to make the sound really cut through the mix and have this real aggressiveness. Oscillator 1, and we're going to go for the transients, kick room transient right over here. And again, use the second envelope to make it even more black here. Envelope 2, bam, together. And the final piece is a bit more noise. In this case, we have this white noise over here. White noise. And again, we're going to use the second envelope to make it also black here. Taking a multi-mode like this and putting in the high pass mode, something like this, because I want to cut a bit the super lows here. So that we can eliminate this really bulky bottom because we have this pitch movement going on. Now we need to make the sound a bit stronger by adding first a distortion. Let's bring this down, let's be something like this. I'm going to go for the distortion again. And then put in an EQ and a nice boost over here. And then I'm going to go here, pick a reverb. And the final touch will be, of course, that delay sound on the background. Send for this one, turn this into the delay. I think it's 1/8, and then we're gonna go a bit fine, ping pong, of course, and then low cut a little bit. Take the envelope 2 and put it on to return so that we can clean up the delay a little bit. And this more or less this sound is up. Let me listen a bit closer to the original and match the tiny details. The main difference was the cutoff was a bit more open, so now we have this. Again, this is a very important sound, so try to replicate this yourself. because you will probably use this a lot in your future productions. I feel really bad remaking another Colin sound, but he always comes with the really cool sounds and a lot of people asking me to remake it, hence we are here again replicating another Colin sound. We love your sound, so it sounds like this. We will start with the wavetable, but now we are gonna change the approach a little bit because this is a different style and different type of sound. So the first thing that I'm going to do, go to the Pigments waveforms, and there's that really cool wavetable. Sounds like this. You can hear a little bit the resemblance, but not really. What we need to do, move the wavetable a bit here. And we are going to use an envelope to change the position of the waveform in wavetable. And make more triangle form so it goes a bit more smoother, longer delay, a bit longer decay, and put it onto position right over here. And then we are going to use the same envelope on the filter. We are getting a bit closer, but you can hear that there is something missing, something really important. And that is what is called a frequency modulation. So the frequency of the waveform is modulated by another oscillator. In this case, we're going to just use a regular sine wave. Here we pick that, and if you follow this line, it goes all the way up here and it says frequency modulation right here. And we're going to go something like this. Listen how the sound gets more aggressive once we start moving this. If you want to hear and see what's happening, if you go to 2D over here, you will see that the wave, we are almost putting more notches in our waveform, which makes the sound more robotic but more harmonically richer. Right here, right? We're getting now very close to that. We still need to have this a bit raw effect. We can achieve this one by taking an envelope tree and putting over here. Now the original sound is not a single oscillator. To mimic that, we're going to go to unison, pick the two oscillators so that now it will be right and left in the duo mode and give a bit less detune. It's this gorgeous frequency modulated square wave sound. Now of course we need to do a couple of more stuff. I'm going to change the filter type to matrix 12 and 12 dB slope, and then we're going to give a bit of resonance here. Now the one problem that we have is a bit too high, so we're going to go here, the chorus, and put it 1 octave down. And from there we're going to go to utility to give a bit like bass on the bottom. We're going to turn this on. And if you go back and listen to the Colin sound, you will hear that it's a bit softer, so we need to smooth this sound a bit more. You're going to go to effects. We're going to start with EQ. But the main trick comes from adding flanger. So we're going to take this flanger sound, put probably somewhere around here. We're going to play around with the feedback. Without. Flanger basically acts like a low pass filter and smooths the things up. Depending on how in the track, you can either go very smooth and soft, very analog like, or a bit more aggressive. And then of course we go to our send again and make a reverb and then send some sound to the reverb. But let me go back, adjust these tiny adjustments and match the sound to the original. And this was a beautiful sound from Colin. If you want to learn more about sound design, I have another video over here. Take a look.